Good evening, everyone. Here Imran Abbas from Dubai. Again, we are live with another legend and with an expert of MGB, OAGB, Professor Arun Prasad. It is great honor for me to interview such a great and prestigious personality and surgeon. So hope this will be very effective and fruitful for all of you. First, sorry for little late because there was some connection issue. So hope my viewers, so if you have any question during live stream, please ask any question and professor will answer. Sir, over to you, sir. Sir, so much thanks for your time and really I feel a great honor. Please, sir.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure and honor to be part of your program, and it's becoming very famous, this program, and globally the viewership has increased. So today I am very happy to be here to interact with you and answer your questions.
Sir, sir, overall as we have earlier discussed, so this is the purpose of interview, especially during this COVID era. So we have used this online and also this way to share experience of experts because you know better than me, this interview is little different than webinar. So in this interview, so viewers have this opportunity to hear such a great person, especially for 1.5 hours. So if you have any question, so in detail, they will know about MGB. We have started this series with Professor Robert Rutledge and will end with Professor Carbaugh. At the end, we will have some obsession. Then we will continue our series of sleeve, Roux-en-Y, and also other metabolic and definite in future also. We need your support. Sir, because we have some repeated question, because at the end when we will have this sum up session that we will sum and we will compare answers. Sir, first of all, your brief introduction.
Yeah, hi. So I am Dr. Arun Prasad. I am a senior bariatric GI and robotic surgeon at Indraprastha Apollo Hospitals, New Delhi. I have been the President of Obesity Surgery Society of India, and currently I am the President of the MGB OAGB International Club. So I think I would be happy to talk further about the topic today.
Sir, excellent, sir. Sir, again, this is honor. So now I am talking with the President of MGB OAGB, and your recommendation is very important for us and especially for this program. Really great honor, sir. Sir, when and why you have started MGB?
See, I started MGB in the year 2011, and that was the time when MGB was getting quite popular across the world. One of the reasons we started was because Dr. Rutledge was here in India at that time, and we had a conference whereby I was asked to debate against MGB. At that time I was not doing MGB, I was very heavily into bypass. So during the debate, I prepared my debate, and when I was preparing my debate and when I heard my opponent, I slowly started getting convinced that, you see, why am I debating against a procedure which otherwise seems quite good, and I must evaluate it myself. So after that conference, I started doing MGB, and we started getting very good results with MGB, and gradually then I increased the number of MGB in my practice. So eventually I have a balance of MGB, sleeve, RYGB, all three procedures. So I am able to actually give comments, and also we have got our ongoing study where we are comparing the three procedures.
Sir, excellent. Sir, same condition, same from my side. Yes, I have started this in 2013, and before that, I was one of the, especially opposite to this procedure. Sir, another question, because when you have started this procedure now about 1 decade, you are doing MGB, OAGB, definitely you have changed your especially some steps of MGB for better results. Sir, can you highlight so which especially these points are also which steps you have changed for better results. Can you explain?
See, one thing I have done is that the BP limb has reduced over the years, and now I generally do a BP limb of about 175 to 200 centimeters. So this is one change that has happened, and that has been because of seeing some patients who are having nutritional problems after surgery. So what I realized is that by reducing the length a little bit, we will get more advantage as far as the side effects of nutritional problem is concerned, and not much difference in weight loss. So let me put it the other way around. By increasing the limb length, we will get more nutritional problems, but we may not get that much advantage with the weight loss. So I feel that the jejunum, which is 200 centimeters, we should try and avoid crossing. Of course, there will be exceptions where you would want to have longer limb length. So this is one major change that I have had over the last 10 years or so.
So, sir, if you compare, so now in India, definite, you also have patients only vegetarian, and also you have patients using high protein. So there is no difference for BP limb, or no? Also, it is important for you.
No, I would not cross 200 centimeters. And vegetarian, non-vegetarian, it balances out. Once you advise the patient, even for vegetarians, there are enough protein options. Number two point is, when we talk about non-vegetarians in India, non-vegetarians does not mean people eating non-veg 3 times a day. At best, it is non-veg 3 times a week.
Yeah, agree, sir. Sir, another question regarding BMI. So if the patient with the BMI 70, 60 and patient 40, so again BP limb is same. Sorry, I am asking because this is we have viewers, and definite this is a question from viewers.
Yes. So in super obese patients and in revision surgeries like sleeve to MGB, these are the two instances where I would go ahead and increase the BP limb to 250 centimeters so that I can get more weight loss.
Sir, you never count complete bowel length in initial surgery, not in redo, because now we are discussing primary surgery.
No, we don't count the bowel length because it adds to the time, it adds to the risk of injury to the bowel. But in special circumstances where you are doing, say, revision surgery, or where you are suspecting a patient with where the bowel length may not be adequate, those cases selectively we are measuring, but not in all.
Sir, now you have standardized your BP limb. During this period, when you have standardized this BP limb, have you faced any malnutrition?
The incidence of malnutrition has reduced. Of course, it has not gone away because malnutrition in terms of anemia, hypoproteinemia, vitamin deficiencies is the commonest problem that we face, especially in patients who don't show good compliance. So I would not say that the problem has gone away, but I like to say that the problem has reduced considerably.
Sir, another question regarding this. So yes, now you have standardized BP limb. Have you faced patient who stopped to weight loss? Just they lost 40%, 50%, then stopped, then start to gain weight?
See, this is something that happens very rarely with MGB or OAGB procedure. But yes, we have seen this happening, and really I don't have any solution. I end up telling the patient, sorry, bariatric surgery has failed you. We cannot do anything more. Because if after doing an MGB, we are not able to get good weight result, then you have the option of doing some very drastic malabsorptive procedures which are going to have their own side effects. And somebody who's failed decent MGB, a properly done MGB with good counseling, the chances of that person succeeding with another operation is rare. So I actually give up. I say, sorry, like we are failed.
Sir, another question. So regarding this BP limb, so if you you are dealing with patients with weight regain after sleeve gastrectomy, redo surgery. So again, this BP limb, have you another criteria or same criteria?
See, in people who are undergoing revision surgery, I give a longer BP limb. I give a BP limb of 250 because these patients, a lot of adaptation in their metabolism has already taken place and they would need a little extra malabsorption to help them lose weight.
Sir, again in redo surgery, also no need to count in your practice to small bowel and any formula 40, 60, 50, 50, something like this.
See, if you are going to go high, like if you are going to go to say 300 centimeters or something, then it's better to count the total bowel length. But if you are going up to 250, I think you can safely avoid.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Sir, another thing that is very interesting and also you know better than a definite at that time in 2011 and when you were opposite to this procedure. So one of the concern was marginal ulcer and bile reflux. Now in 2021, after all of these MDT and also follow up and also these technical changes and so standardizing this MGB, so are we still that concern of marginal ulcer and bile reflux like before or no? There are.
See, marginal ulcer and bile reflux are common problems after any kind of bypass, whether it is an MGB, OAGB or an RYGB. What is important to note here is that in MGB, we should have our gastric pouch as long as possible. So if you try and keep your gastric pouch close to 20 centimeters, that means the distance between your GE junction and anastomosis is going to be long. So the problem of bile reflux is less. When it comes to anastomotic ulcers, anastomotic ulcer incidence is there about 1 to 2% in all types of bypass, and patients who smoke, who are on NSAIDs and other risk factors, they are definitely more liable to have marginal ulcers. But the best way to avoid is to keep a very long gastric tube.
Sir, regarding this smokers, so this was a good as you highlighted. So because now in this series, this was the main issue after any type of gastric bypass, especially MGB. How you deal with these smokers? So you ask them to so hold smoking, or you believe and trust them, and so what is the post-op of these smokers after this mini bypass?
See, I discuss with them, but most of the patients I am going to tell them to have a sleeve gastrectomy done instead of an MGB. I don't want MGB to get a bad name by a smoker getting an ulcer and perforation and dying. So I try to discuss with the patient. If they are very adamant that they can't give up smoking, I say fine, you go ahead with a sleeve gastrectomy. It's not a problem. And otherwise, you know, people have to be kept on PPI for maybe lifelong.
Yeah. This was also my next question. So also you prefer in such a case, if they are going to continue, first of all, the most important thing, so they must hold smoking. This is the best, go to sleep. If any issue, so we can continue PPI for the patient, at least to decrease the chance of marginal ulcer.
Yes.
Sir, another question. So if patient with GERD, so you know definition of GERD is very wide. So yes, patient has symptomatic reflux, also documented. So you confirm, your endoscopist confirmed. So are you prefer MGB in such a case? Have you experience?
Yes. See, I will discuss with the patient and usually such patients are knowledgeable. So we will discuss both options of RYGB and MGB. And I am quite personally comfortable doing MGB in these patients. You have to make sure that you have a nice wide anastomosis. If you have a nice wide anastomosis, that means the food is passing from high pressure to low pressure area. The GERD actually becomes better.
Sir, have you any worse experience in such a case? You did surgery in a patient with GERD before surgery, symptomatic patient, And yes, all standardized, that technique was okay, everything was okay. But now the condition become worse and you revise the case to Roux-en-Y or another surgery. Have you?
Right. I've heard about such cases and we have seen such presentation in conferences. Luckily, I have not faced this problem. But yes, if such a problem occurs, then we will have no option but to revise from MGB to RYG.
Sir, so then we can, so just a comment. So now the gold standard of reflux in obese people, in obese or morbid obese, is Roux-en-Y. So in future, so we can think about MGB can replace Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, or we can also choose Roux-en-Y gastric bypass in a case for the treatment of reflux in a morbid obese class 2, class 3 obesity.
Yes, I think we can. And if I have a patient who is, super obese, BMI more than 50, then I will definitely prefer MGB. A patient of a BMI between 40 and 50, I can discuss with the patient, and both options are there for RYG and MGB. But higher the weight, the more preference for MGB for.
Sir, excellent. Sir, regarding GERD after a sleeve gastrectomy, so you are going to revise surgery not due to weight regain. Patient is suffering now with severe GERD after a sleeve gastrectomy, and in your evaluation there is some migration of this sleeve inside mediastinum. Are you go for OAGB or MGB in such a case?
Sorry, I didn't understand your question. Could you repeat that, please?
Sir, GERD after a sleeve gastrectomy.
Okay.
So patient with the GERD after a sleeve gastrectomy, and there is also migration of this sleeve tube inside mediastinum. Have you any experience of MGB in such a case?
No, I actually don't have an experience, but in such cases one could consider what we say as a long pouch RYGB, whereby you can keep the pouch of the RYGB longer, something very similar to MGB. Many people can call this procedure as a diverted MGB, but I think here we could have problems at times, and Roux bypass or a diverted MGB would be a better option in these patients, especially considering if they require further intervention, it will become extremely difficult to go into that area to do any further surgery.
Sir, so if we compare chance of marginal ulcer in MGB and Roux-en-Y, so definite data so show this marginal ulcer in Roux-en-Y more than MGB. Why? Due to buffering effect of bile, that is in MGB due to bile, so there is less chance of acidic marginal ulcer. When we will have this diverted Roux-en-Y gastric bypass with long pouch, there is more acid and there is no buffering effect of bile because we diverted the bile. So are you think there will be more chance of marginal ulcer?
I have no answer to that question. You may be right, but the worldwide literature and experience is limited, so we don't have enough numbers or any publication anywhere to be able to scientifically say yes or no to your question.
Yeah. Sir, have you faced any intractable GERD after MGB? If you faced, what was your preference for surgical intervention?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, luckily I have not faced, but if I have such a patient, then I will offer a Roux-en-Y gastric bypass to such a patient.
Sir, what is your protocol of pre-op endoscopy and H. pylori eradication?
All patients have to have pre-op endoscopy, and whenever we do endoscopy, we usually check for H. pylori. That is part of the treatment, and if it comes positive, then we give the treatment for that.
Sir, you must eradicate H. pylori before surgery or no? You did do surgery because sometime your patient is from abroad or from other cities. So yes, you will do surgery.
So we start the treatment at the same time. So if I am doing endoscopy today, I will get to know about H. pylori right now. I will start the treatment today and maybe carry on with the surgery in a day or two and continue with the H. pylori.
Sure.
You don't have to delay the surgery to eradicate completely. As long as you start the treatment, it is fine.
Sir, because your center is one of the busiest center, and I know you are one of the busiest surgeon also in India and in the world. So now this is your routine to do pre-op endoscopy other than H. pylori. Which finding? So you have changed your plan. Yes, you were going to do MGB, but so due to this I cannot do MGB, and this surgery is better, or this procedure is better for the patient. And how much percentage this endoscopy was effective to change your plan?
See, theoretically speaking, if we see changes of suggestive of Barrett's esophagus, I would avoid an MGB procedure. But it happens very rarely, so maybe I think one case I have had to change my idea, and instead of doing MGB, I did a sleeve gastrectomy.
Not much more. So it means there is no specific role of pre-op endoscopy to change your.
No. See, pre-op endoscopy is basically to look for Barrett's, to look for any ulcerations, to look for any intragastric varices or any other pathology. It is quite important because tomorrow, if after surgery or in the future there is a problem, a documentation of a pre-op endoscopy is quite essential.
Excellent. Sir, what is your post-op surveillance for endoscopy? Have you any protocol?
See, I would like to do the endoscopy after 1 year for all the MGB patients, but they don't always come. So whoever is ready, whoever can come, I try to motivate them for an endoscopy. In between, if they are having any pain, like ulcer-like pain, then I will do the endoscopy before that.
So which percentage you are following? About 50% you can follow up MGB?
Yeah, about 50% get endoscopy.
So what was your finding? So have you faced silent marginal ulcer in such a cases, and which percentage?
Yes, I think the rate of ulceration is about between 1 to 2%. So if I am doing 100 patients, I will find ulcer in 1 to 2 out of 100.
And what about H. pylori after surgery? Have you follow H. pylori? So after 6 months, after 1 year, so patient is suffering with H. pylori, you have treated. Now post-op follow-up.
No, I don't follow up because H. pylori is something which actually cannot get eradicated. So it was more for the peri-operative period that we have eradicated it. And most of these people, if they have the tendency, then after a few months they will get H. pylori again.
Sir, regarding hiatal hernia, so this is also another question. So have you any concern? Patient is suffering with hiatal hernia. Yes, you have diagnosed pre-op or during surgery. The size is 6 centimeter, 7 centimeter, but there is no paraesophageal hernia. Just you can see there is a hiatal defect, and in morbid obese people, routinely we see, because due to high intra-abdominal pressure. So what you will do in such a case?
No, if you go ahead with MGB or RYGB, then that's the treatment of the hiatus hernia.
There is no need to chloroplasty?
No, I do not do chloroplasty. Especially in MGB, it's not needed because you are going to be doing a nice, good wide anastomosis and you will be creating a low pressure zone. So I personally don't believe it.
Sir, have you any...
In sleeve gastrectomy, if a patient wants sleeve gastrectomy, then yes, chloroplasty.
Sir, have you any experience of paraesophageal hernia? And also you have reduced hernia, so, and after that, so go for MGB in morbid obese?
Yes.
There was
paraesophageal hernia, and it's not a problem.
There was. Sir, if can you, we can show your video. Is it possible now?
Sure. Let me try and share a video.
Okay, sir. Just now I will give you access.
Okay.
I will give you.
Yeah. So, can you see this video?
Yeah, sir, we can see.
What you are seeing is this is the dissection at the
His.
angle of his.
Yeah.
I always bring it down. You may or may not bring it down, but to bring it down, it actually helps my stapling later stages. This is the entry into the lesser sac, close to the pylorus, as low down as possible. So that is the second step. So that's the first firing, which is 60 millimeters. Many people use 45, I use 60. This is followed by creating a loose sleeve. Now, as I had freed the angle of his in the beginning, it becomes very easy for us to.
Sir, also you are doing with Da Vinci.
Yeah, see, the procedure is the same.
Excellent.
Now, this is one situation where I have had to measure. So you can see that is the ileocecal junction. Actually, the laparoscopic video is on my laptop. This is my iPad.
No, excellent, sir. Excellent.
Okay, now that's the duodenojejunal junction which we have got. So in this particular case, I have to measure. So we are picking up a side to side. The stomach to the posterior layer. So this stabilizes. If this is long enough and going high up, then you can call it OAGB because it will act as an anti-reflux stitch, the top part of the stitch. So here we brought the two ends together. Then we are going to do a end to side gastrojejunostomy. So it's a 3-layered suturing. First layer we had already put, and now we'll be doing a 2-layer suturing here. That's the gastric calibration tube. So we made sure that it is nice wide. And as I said, if we take this suture up, then it acts like an anti-reflux stitch and what you can call as an OAGB. So there are some subtle differences between MGB and OAGB, but more or less they are the same. This is a stapled anastomosis. Earlier you saw sutured. A stapled anastomosis, I am bringing it down, complete 60 millimeters. And then we close with the suture. There is this book which is there. I'm sure many people would have read it, and it's quite a good book. So I think that's all I had for the video, really.
Sir, if you have any presentation.
Yeah, actually, let me just, there are a few slides here.
Okay, sir.
People ask this question, so I might as well let this run. Now, mini gastric bypass and one anastomosis gastric bypass. The OAGB is recognized, and this is the term which is being used, advised by the IFSO position statement. But are these two the same operation? Because IFSO position statement is saying that we should use the same term. Now, as we all know, OAGB and MGB was started by Dr. Rutledge, as you can see on the right, in 1997. And Dr. Karbao started in 2002, the OAGB. The difference is very minor. Like in MGB, surgeon is on right side of the patient. These are the port sides. OAGB, surgeon stands between the legs. In OAGB, entire small bowel length is measured. MGB, it is not measured. 250 to 350 centimeters, 150 to 200. Common channel is about 200. In MGB, we don't measure it. In early diabetics, 350 centimeter common channel is suggested in Europe, while 150 centimeter BP limb is what we use standard in MGB. The greater omentum is divided in OAGB procedures, something which we don't do in MGB. So these are some of the minor, very small differences. Angle of his is dissected, not dissected. Pleura exposed and sutured if needed, not done in MGB. Pad of fat is removed, again not done here. Retrogastric window to the pleura is not necessary in MGB. The last stapler is always separated in OAGB. Here it is not necessary as long as you have stapled up to the top. So the suturing of the staple line is for about 8 to 10 centimeters in OAGB, like we saw in my video. And in OAGB, the anastomosis is anterior stomach to the jejunum, whereas in MGB it is inferior. Medium to large 3 to 4 centimeter anastomosis in OAGB versus 6 centimeter in MGB. 1 centimeter above the anastomosis is sutured, which is not done in MGB. Glue can be applied to the anastomotic surface and staple region of the gastric reservoir and remnant. And that was the video which we have already seen. So I'll stop sharing my screen.
Sir, excellent, really. Excellent demonstration. And so we can see the MGB and OAGB, the main difference is, so MGB is less restrictive, less malabsorptive procedure, but OAGB is more restrictive. Also pouch is tight pouch, anastomosis is gastrojejunostomy is small size and more malabsorptive. So the length of BP is, so maybe why I am thinking about this. So Professor Robert Rutledge experience is in India, so maybe vegetarian, he faced such a people, but Professor Carbao was in Spain. I don't know, maybe because also I have discussed many times with Professor Carbajo. So regarding,
I'm going to say exactly the same thing. Like people in Europe say that MGB length, they will not get enough weight loss. And in India, I am not going to do 350 centimeter on a patient because it's going to lead to trouble. So in Indian conditions, I am doing more of the MGB type procedure. However, as I said, revision procedures, super obese, sometimes we have patients coming from abroad for medical tourism. In those patients, I could consider OAGB and a longer limb length.
Sir, definitely. Now in Dubai also I have faced such a situation. So sometime, because if BP limb is 180, this is my practice. So so we cannot achieve that target, unfortunately. So we are little aggressive, but again it depends on patient to patient. We see patient from which country, and also then we can decide. So there is no standard now. It depends on the patient, surgeon experience, then can decide to do this surgery. Sir, I have one, please.
Personally, I would say after 500 mgb, once you talk to the patient, after 15 minutes, you would have decided what you are going to do for this patient.
Yeah.
Because by then, the surgeon would have had the experience to know, just by talking to the patient, understanding their lifestyle, this is what I am going to do.
Yeah, that is the most important thing, and really then the role of MDT and all the team. So due to this, always we ask, this bariatric surgery is not simple. If someone want to go start this surgery, so MDT team and also all of these points are very important to select the patient and do best one for the patient. Sir, I have one question regarding this anastomosis. So routinely you do this 6 centimeter, that is the wide anastomosis, gastrojejunostomy. So have you faced dumping?
See, dumping is part of the treatment.
Same you think about Robert Rutledge. So dumping is blessing.
Yes. Dumping is what I say, dumping is the physiological restriction.
So then patient can control. How you control? So what is your suggestion for the patient to control dumping?
No, when they have dumping problem, my dietitian helps. You take food, carbohydrate with low glycemic index and more of roughage, and they are able to manage. That's not a problem.
And still, you have not faced any intractable dumping after MGB.
I have heard about it, but luckily I have not.
You have not faced such a situation. So, sir, what about nizidoblastosis? So, have you faced after MGB?
No, I have not seen this.
Never to face this. Sir, regarding bleeding, so one of the early complication after MGB, because we have two sleeve staplers, just like imagine two sleeve inside. Have you faced early bleeding in patients, and how you can control?
You see, bleeding, if you get, it would be from the anastomotic site. And in which case, if the problem is that patient is going to be bleeding intra-abdominally, then you'll have to go inside and suture. Sometimes situations where endoscopic intervention might be able to help. What is important here is that what I ensure is in patients who are, say, elderly, diabetics, hypertensive, whereby we are expecting the quality of the blood vessels to not be very good. In those cases, you have to, do your procedure slowly, do your stapling slowly, maybe consider overstitching at certain areas where you have some doubts. Because there will be times when after you have fired a stapler, you suddenly see a little bit of a hematoma forming under the serosa.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware, maybe take some sutures.
Yeah, excellent. Sir, because now some surgeons, especially Bruno, so they suggest to deflate or high pressure during surgery or such a maneuver to control that stapler line bleeding. So are you agree or have you experienced such a maneuvers?
No, I have not seen this to be such a major problem. I think this is more of a problem with sleeve gastrectomy than bypass procedures.
So why, sir, in sleep due to high pressure, high luminal pressure we face bleeding,
Yes.
but in bypass there is low pressure and less chance of bleeding?
Yes.
Sir, agree. Sir, another question regarding this MGB in low BMI. So for diabetic nowadays, so you know better than me, this metabolic surgery or diabetic surgery is also in the market. Are you preferred to do only for diabetes, and till which BMI?
Yes, we can do. Yeah, we can do between 27.5 and 32.5 and give a small bypass of about 125 centimeters in these cases. So I have limited numbers, but we seem to have good results with them.
Excellent, sir. So in these cases also you never measure a hole the bowel.
No, if you are doing only 125 centimeters, this what's it to measure?
Sir, also I have little experience about these patients, sir, MGB only for diabetes, because in Dubai there is a guidelines from Dubai Health Authority DHA. We can do surgery for BMI 30 plus 2 comorbidity. So can you believe I measure all the bowel, and in these patient, diabetic patient, central obese, I can't believe more than 800 centimeter. The bowel, really, this was amazing for me. 800, 850, 900, and also mesentery is thick mesentery, omentum is thick. So definitely they respond to surgery, but overall it was amazing for me when I have started. I have limited cases, not much more, but in these low BMI cases, it was amazing for me, the length of bowel, because before this we hear about the height of the person and length of the bowel. But now there are short stature, central obese, but more length of bowel. So I don't know.
See, in these patients who have low BMI, the mechanism we are looking at is totally a metabolic and a hormonal mechanism. So by bypassing the duodenum, you are reducing the anti-incretins.
Yeah.
And by increasing the
GLP-1
transit, the GLP-1 levels are going to go up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just 125 centimeters, I think, is reasonable in such patients because you don't want them to lose weight and develop malnutrition.
Sure, sir. Sir, have you any experience of MGB in adolescents?
MGB in adolescents, very rarely. In fact, now that you talk about it, day after tomorrow, I'm going in a 14-year-old girl who has got a BMI of 70.
Oh. So you will go for MGB in this case.
Yes, we discussed in detail because one of the options I was offering to the patient was to do a sleeve gastrectomy now and maybe offer a bypass surgery after a few years, but they want a one-shot treatment only. They are from another country, they have come from Yemen, so they only want a one-shot treatment and go back. So I will be doing an MGB in this way.
And also follow up in such a cases is also very important because their
Yes, it's
micronutrient.
very important. So online follow-up we will be doing this patients.
Sir, as you have also mentioned earlier, so regarding this malnutrition or micronutrient deficiency, especially after MGB or any hypoabsorptive, that is the one of the most common is iron deficiency and albumin. So, what is your protocol of supplement in these cases? Routinely, not
We give supplement to all patients.
for which time? Long. Lifelong.
Vitamin iron, vitamin D, calcium, we will be giving for lifetime.
They need. So, because some of surgeons they ask, so after 2 years, so patient maybe can eat, and also maybe, but you prefer to continue supplements long life.
We continue supplements long life. There are, however, some patients who are local where we have good follow-up. So some patients we have done as part of a trial that we have not given them any supplements, but because they have been very compliant and very regular in visiting us, we have found that without giving supplements also, the patients did not develop any deficiency.
Yeah, sure, sir. Sure, regarding, sir, this PPI in regular patients, not in, because we have discussed about smokers, in regular patients, so what is your protocol of PPI after surgery?
We give it for 2 years. I don't know the reason why 2 years, not 3 years, but generally we giving it for 2 years.
2 years, and then there is, hopefully there is no such a, you are not facing such a issue, especially.
Yeah. See, after 2 years, if the patient develops any symptoms, we do an endoscopy, or if if there's a problem, then we'll have to continue. But currently, we are giving for 2 years.
Sir, which percentage of your patient after MGB they consult to with symptoms like GERD symptoms? So this pain, hurt, or something like this.
See, the commonest symptom is a vague abdominal pain, which is periumbilical pain, say 1 hour after meals. And you can call this, could be part of the dumping only. And that is the commonest symptom which I have. GERD is not that common, but that I would put it as second common. But the commonest symptom is vague abdominal pain around the umbilicus.
Sir, maybe this pain is due to bile inside remnant. So because definite we have bile inside remnant because we have the way, and also if we see this vague pain is more common in Roux-en-Y. Why? Because in MGB, because we cut that site of pylorus near to this antrum and there is small way, but in Roux-en-Y there is same wide and more bile gastritis of remnant and more vague pain as compared to MGB. Are you agree?
You may be right.
Yeah, because sometimes, because one of the main cause of this vague pain, that is the more common, because if we compare both of these techniques, MGB and Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, this vague pain is more common in Roux-en-Y gastric bypass as compared to MGB, and maybe that is due to bile gastritis of remnant stomach that is more common in Roux-en-Y gastric bypass.
Bypass.
Sir, have you faced any internal hernia after MGB?
No.
Never. So there is no need to close the defect of this bowel.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to close that defect.
Sometimes you have, because I have faced one or two cases, they consult me the regular colicky pain. There was some telescopic movement of this bowel in that defect, but there was not stuck or hernia, internal hernia. But this we can. There is no need to definite to close
I don't recommend any closure of them.
and to close this. Sir, what is your dietary protocol after MGB?
See, usually for about 2 to 3 weeks, we will be putting the patient into a liquid diet, high protein, low carb diet, and gradually increasing to solids, because we have to take care of the dumping. And overall, our advice would be for patients to take more of protein and things like, chicken, fish, egg white. These are the things which we recommend heavily. Fresh vegetables, fruits. Avoid high glycemic index carbohydrates, because that is what is going to cause dumping. Prefer vegetable fats to make sure that you don't develop deficiency of essential fatty acids.
Yeah.
Vitamin D and calcium is again a very important part of our protocol.
Sir, as you have mentioned, so calcium and vitamin D, and definite, this is very important. Are you routinely check PTH after 1 year, 2 year? In these cases, sometimes PTH rise due to hypoglycemia, or no need to check if you are.
I think we go by clinical criteria.
You are doing this. Have you faced any pathology? Yeah.
Yeah, pathological fracture. I have one patient who I heard had some fracture of the femur at a later date, but that was not somebody who had been following closely, so I wouldn't know. But yes, that is a big risk which we are talking about. That is why the vitamin D and calcium has to be kept under monitor.
Sir, why I am asking this, because we have lot of viewers on Facebook, and also many of our youngsters, they are watching these videos, and this is the message, because unfortunately, what is the people thinking about, why if so change the name, this mini gastric, they think, can you believe today I had a patient at my clinic, and that lady asked me, I want to do mini gastric bypass. I asked her, why you want to do? Because this is mini, this is small surgery. So this thing, but mini is not mini. This is a strong malabsorptive surgery. This surgery need to follow up, need to everything, and especially as you have mentioned. So if you will not follow, then we can face till pathologic fracture. That is a disaster. I faced, sir, a young lady with pathologic fracture. So this is unfortunately when they will not follow, when we will not follow our patients, yes, then we can face such a situation. So due to this mini gastric bypass is a not mini surgery. This is a strong malabsorptive procedure.
Actually, when in the 1990s, there were open surgeries which were also happening. So the reason why Rutledge called this mini was it was supposed to be minimally invasive gastric bypass.
Yeah.
So the word minimally invasive became mini to distinguish it from open RYGB. Over the years, people have forgotten this reason, but the name has stuck. Mini gastric bypass.
I agree, sir. I agree, sir. Sir, we have some questions also from our viewers on Facebook, and most of answers already because you have answered. So one of the question is from Dr. Mijda Ismail from Erbil, Iraq. He is also well-known bariatric surgeon in Iraq, and already you have mentioned, because his question is about marginal ulcer. And also your protocol, and also as I will read his question regarding marginal ulcer post-op. Can we giving antacids to buffer the area of acid as we give it to GERD? Do you think it will be useful? Definitely, you have already talked about PPI and.
No, we give for 2 years. We give PPI for
Yeah.
years. That is a recommendation of both the MGB OHGB club as well as the committee which we had from IFSO, which had submitted guidelines. So the
Yeah, sir.
after MGB OHGB of the IFSO book has been.
Sure, sir. Sir, there was some, I think, internet connection was issue. Now, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Excellent. Sir, really, it was very fruitful, and sorry for, because at start, so we had some connection issue. Really sorry for that inconvenience. It was really very informative, very practical. Sir, any message for youngsters who are now new and they are going to start MGB?
Okay. The message is that, as you have already underlined, mini gastric bypass is not a mini operation. It is an operation which is a very powerful operation. It has to be taken very seriously, and the principles of mini gastric bypass, MGB, OHGB, the steps of MGB, OHGB are barely standardized now. In fact, I would say it is one of the most standardized procedures. So you should follow the standardization. Make sure your pouch is nice and long. Make sure your anastomosis is nice and wide. And these are the 2 tips which I would like to give to beginners. Thank you very much.
Sir, really, it was a great honor for me. I know in India now is late, but unfortunately, because we also cover that European areas and other areas, so due to this timing, this 10 p.m. from Dubai is, so we just also, I know now in India, I think 1 p.m. maybe. So, sir, so much thanks. Really, your support, you are always supportive and encouraging, and definite, we need your support in future also in other series. Again, so much thanks and lot of respect, sir.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Sir, so much thanks, and also my viewers, so thanks to follow at this time. And next week we will have also another legend. We will have Kamal Mahvar from UK, and also he is also a great scientist, not only surgeon in my opinion. And hopefully his opinion will be very important, and I will try my best to ask about data. So because he's a scientist, yes, we will also hear about his personal experience, as well as, so we will talk about the data. So what is the data? So about MGB, and so hopefully that session will be very fruitful and very effective. Please follow our interviews. If you have any question, any query, you can send me message. You can add in your comments. Professor also will answer you if you have any question and comment on global laparoscopy. And also, if in live stream next week also, you can follow and ask any question. Sir, again, so much thanks. Have a nice time and stay blessed, sir.
Okay, good.